We begin with some good news. Ethan Couch, who is also referred to as the Affluenza teen, has been sentenced to 2 years behind bars because of the fact that he skipped the country and tried to avoid the fact that he had violated his probation. Now, for anyone who doesn't know who he is, in 2013, he got into a pretty serious car accident when he was underage and drunk driving. He killed 4 people on the side of the road. In fact, Gawker has more details on that. Judge Wayne Salvant sentenced Couch, who appeared in adult court for the first time, to 180 days in prison for each of the 4 people who died when he slammed into an SUV that had pulled over the side of the road. The 720-day sentence comes out to just shy of 2 years. Now, the story got national headlines because of the fact that he was able to not even get a prison sentence initially because his defense was that he was so wealthy and so privileged that he didn't understand the consequences of his actions. Thus, he was referred to as the Affluenza teen. I love that there's finally some justice in this story, but just consider the fact that even after all this, even after he got caught in a Snapchat video drinking, which was violating his probation, even after he and his mother fled the country because they didn't want to face the consequences of that, even after he killed 4 people and severely paralyzed one of his friends, he just gets a 2-year sentence. Anyone else who might be underprivileged is going to probably face a lifetime behind bars because of that.
It's called white privilege. It's very simple.
No, that doesn't exist. Why do you hate white people, though? Why do you hate white people, though?
I don't hate white people. I love white people. But I'm just saying that this is white privilege, and this is the exact definition of it. 2 years for poor people. I've known people, and not stereotyping when black people go to jail, but I have known people in the past to get at least 10 years for having over an ounce of weed or, an 8 ball or so of cocaine or something like that. I'm not justifying, drugs or anything like that, but I'm just saying this is the quintessential example of white privilege. He killed 4 people and got 2 years.
Yeah, and initially it was a slap on the wrist. He had probation. And there's so many layers to this case. We've been covering this case from the get-go on HLN. And the judge, the original judge, to further both of your points, the case right before Ethan Couch, also a 16-year-old, and this kid was underprivileged, and this kid also had a DUI, which also cost somebody's life. Wasn't 4 lives, 1 life, and he had a lower blood alcohol level than Ethan Couch did. Stiff sentence behind bars.
Yep.
And he wasn't able to afford this rock star team of lawyers, these expert witnesses that were able to testify in his defense and come up with Affluenza, which is a complete joke. He knew the difference between right and wrong. He's an entitled prick. That's exactly what he is.
Yeah, and I love that Kenny brought up the white privilege thing, because we talk about that a lot on the show, and I get a lot of heat because I bring it up a lot, right? Because it certainly exists, and I try to clarify what it means so people understand that it's not us pointing our fingers to white people and saying, you didn't earn what you got, or you're not deserving of what you have in your life. It's just meant to point out that there are certain injustices, certain double standards that minorities or underprivileged individuals have to deal with that the white community doesn't have to deal with. And look, it does have a lot to do with socioeconomic status, right? So poor people, again, as Sam perfectly mentioned, don't have the same resources as wealthy people. So you can't hire the best defense attorneys. And so you are more likely to have a stiffer sentence. You are more likely to be convicted of a crime. And so in this case with Ethan Couch, I mean, this is a perfect example of a wealthy white kid who was given the benefit of the doubt. So many minorities in this country don't get the benefit of the doubt, right? But a lot of white people do. And so just understand that that's what we mean when we talk about white privilege. That's not a knock on white people. It's a knock on the way society sees certain races.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, I love white people, and it's not me, trying to play the race card, as a lot of people, will throw that out as well. It's what it is. This is the blatant example. They fled the country. That's federal. So where's the FBI? Can I get the FBI involved in this as well? There's a lot of different things in there. So Fort Worth, Texas, right outside of Dallas. So evidently they know someone. I guarantee you, they know someone in a political realm in that town. And there's just a lot of different connections that you don't know about that's under the table. It's the way the world is. It's the way the country is. I'm not going to say that I don't like it or I do like it, but we all achieve to get, a certain amount of wealth and a certain amount of status wherever we are for things like this.
And it doesn't help too that this kid, I mean, when you watch, if you watched the trial, this kid had zero remorse. If anything, it was just self-preservation for himself. And the parents too, I mean, all they did was care about themselves, not these four families and the victims and the community that they destroyed. And you look at how they don't feel any sort of accountability. So when he did violate his probation after a really light sentence, you would think that you would hope that a parent would discipline their child and say, what are you doing? Oh no. She dyes his hair, takes him to Mexico. They go to strip clubs. She had a wad of cash. She had a gun on her. They were out for the count.
Yeah.
They were like peace.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I mean, ironically, it does serve the defense's argument because the mother does seem to cover up for her son, does seem to make it seem as though he could never do any wrong. So, yeah, I mean, if he has any trouble learning what consequences are or what the difference is between right and wrong, his mom definitely does play into that.
But he knows the difference
called
between
bad
right and wrong.
parenting.
But he does.
Yeah,
He
but
does.
it's
Of course,
bad
of
parenting.
course, yeah. But
It's bad
his
parenting.
mom is terrible.
Oh, his mom's horrible.
And I don't know, if she's going to face any jail time for this. I know that she's definitely facing some
Civil
charges.
lawsuits,
Yeah,
too.
And she deserves consequences for actions, and maybe she'll learn what consequences are
This is when you send your kids to timeout and you don't discipline them either by a belt or something else. This is what happens right here.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
Horrible.
I'm not saying to whoop your kids,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I got whooped plenty of times.